Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another live stream in my 2-week live stream. So that means 2 live streams per month. And yet another topic, different topic. And today I wanted to talk about Rich Harmony. And maybe I could have been a little bit more clear about what I mean with Rich Harmony. Actually, that was just something that popped up in my mind while setting up the live stream. But with Rich Harmony, I mean extensions. So how do you add extensions to your chords? So how do you get to, for example, 9 chords or maybe even 13 chords? And it's actually very simple. And also I want to show you today how you can combine certain chords. What chords can you play on top of each other and which chords you can't play on top of each other. So I want to switch to my screen already. Just 1 second. I want to switch to something that I prepared. Open my screen here. Okay, so what I've prepared here is actually a normal C major scale. And why did I do that? Well, I prepared a C major scale because this is how I'm going to show you all the different extensions that you can make on top of your chords. And how you can get a 9 chord, and how you can get, for example, how you can add on top of that, like a +11 chord. And also, let me just write something in the chat. And I also wrote in the chat if the audio is okay. So please let me know, because sometimes it might be a little bit louder or a little bit softer than normally. But first of all, what I want to show you is probably most of you already know how to make chords. But I just want to zoom in for the people who might be a little bit more new to this subject. And I'll try to do it in a medium fast tempo so that the other people will not get bored, but that it's not too fast for people who are just starting to wrap their head around this topic. So here you see all of these chords are normal triads. So that means that we only have 3 notes per chord. So here we have a C minor chord, here we have a C major chord, here we have a D minor. Let me just turn down the volume of my... So the thing is, every note is a third apart. So that means here, if I zoom into the C chord, here you see we have the C, which is our root note. Then we have the E, so that's the third apart. And then again we have a third apart, which is the G. So that's our C major triad. So let's see if we can if this also applies for a different triad. Let's go to the A minor triad. The A is our root note. And the distance between the A and the C, which is the next note, is again a third, but it's a minor third. So you always skip a tone. And then if we go to the 5th, which is the E, then that again is a third away from the C. So this is the C, and this is the E. And again, we skip a tone in the middle. Now, what that actually means is how we create chords is by stacking thirds. And I'll show you that a little bit more now. So how do we make 7th chords? So I'm going to just copy this note, this chord actually. I'm going to copy it with everything, with the name and everything. I'm going to take out this now, the Ionian. And I'm going to copy this chord also. Actually, I'm going to copy, let's see, I have 3 bars here. So I'm going to copy these 3 bars. And I'm going to turn all of them into 7th chords. And I'm going to apply the same trick. So I'm just going to continue stacking thirds to create extra extensions. So if I want to make this into the 7th chord, the C, I'm just going to stack another third on top. So that means that I'm going to skip this tone here, and that creates the B next to it. So let me put the B on top, and now all of a sudden we have a C major 7 chord. Let me also write it down so you can see it. Now that this creates a C major 7 chord. And And I just added a third on top. So you can see here, so it's just stacking thirds. It's that easy and that simple. If we go from the C to the E, it's a major third. If we go from the E to the G, that's a minor third up. And if we go from the G to the B natural, then that is a major third up. So you see, it's just continuous stacking thirds, thirds on thirds. Now let's see if this trick also applies to the D minor chord. So let's again do that. So here we already have the D to the F, which is a minor third. Then from the F to the A, which is a major third. And if I want to turn this chord into a seventh chord, then again I'm going to stack a third on top of the A, which in this case will be the C. As you can see here, so this now between the A and the C is a minor third, the distance. So you're seeing a pattern here, right? And for the people who might not be too familiar in this area yet, the thing is, I'm sticking to to all the notes that are in the key. So if you don't know what kind of third to add on top, for example, here we're in the key of C major because that's always the easiest one to use when you're giving examples, because you don't have any sharps or flats. So you know you're completely you only use the white keys on the piano, as they always say. So the thing is, you just look at what you have in the key, and in this case, only the white keys. So, and we did not have a C sharp or C flat. That rarely happens, but we did not have a C sharp. So you just add a C. And let me apply this also to the E minor chord. We're going to do the same trick again, stacking thirds. So here, from the beginning, we have the E, then we go to the G, which is a minor third, then we go to the B, which is a major third, and you might guess it already, we're going to add another third on top, which is we're going to skip the C, which means we're going to add a D on top. And why a D? Well, because in the key of C major, we don't have any sharps or flats. It's as simple as that. Let's take one more example. One more example. Here, we have the F. Again, from F to A is a major third up. Then going from A to C is a minor third up. And everything is in the key of C. So you see only stacking thirds. Now I want to make this into an F7 chord. I don't know what chord it is yet. So what is a third up from C? So you just count. You have C, and then you go to D, and then you go to E. So the E is a third up. And that means that we'll add an E on top. Now, the next thing that you want to find out, now that you know how to stack all the chords on top of each other, or actually how to stack the thirds on top of each other to create your extensions, or in this case, your seventh chords. Now the next thing that you need to do is, if you don't already know by heart, is that you need to find out what kind of extensions are we dealing with. So for example, is this a minor seventh chord, or is this a dominant seventh chord, or is this a major seventh chord? And it's actually quite easy, because you just need to find out what is the distance between the F, which is the root note in this case, and between the E. So how many steps is it? And in this case, we're dealing with a major 7, because E is just a half a step away from F. So I'm going to call this a major 7 chord. And with the E, I'm going to go back to the E minor. Well, it can't be a dominant 7 chord, and in this case also not a major 7 chord, because it's a minor chord. So we're going to see what's the distance between the E, which is the root note, and between the D, which is the top, which is the 7th. And we can see that between that we have 2 half steps. So this means that this is an E minor 7 chord. And I'm going to go to the next chord, which is the D. And we have a C on top. Well, from C to D, we have 2 half steps, which makes a D minor 7 chord. Okay. So I think probably people who are following that, they probably now already see a pattern. Now the next thing that I want to show you is how to create 9 chords. I'm just going to copy all of this because we're going to add thirds on top. So you might say like, oh well, Alexander, this is a boring episode. You're only talking about stacking thirds. Well, if only you knew. So now I'm going to zoom in here again because I'm going to apply the same trick. So what do you think that is? Well, I'm going to stack a third on top. So I'm going to stack a third on top of this B. So we're skipping the C and we're adding the D on top. Here we go. Now we have our 9 chord. And we're going to see what kind of 9 do we have. So is it flat 9 or is it like a normal 9? Is it like major 9? And in this case, the distance between the C and the D, but there's an octave distance between them. But so we have an octave, and then we have 2 half steps because we have C sharp and then D. So that means that we're dealing with a major 9 chord. Now I'm going to take you into the realm of a minor chord. Let's see if that's any different, because we do have some, and everything is diatonic. But I'm going to now take you in the realm of the minor chords, and here we have some interesting ones later on. But now I want to turn this one into a 9 chord. So what do we have? Well, we have C, which is the minor 7, and I'm going to add a third on top, which will be E. And I want to see what's the distance between, we're dealing with a minor chord, we know that already. So now I want to see what's the distance between D and E. And the distance between D and E is 2 half steps again. So that means that we are dealing with a D minor 9. Which is a beautiful chord, by the way. So I definitely advise you to try it out and to play it every now and then. And now I want to do the same trick. You know, I'll be a little bit quicker with this one. I want to do the same trick with this chord, but we're going to have a tricky one here. I'm going to add a third, a diatonic third, on top of this one, which means that between the D and the F, we have the E, and then we have the F. But now, what I want to see is now we're going to have a tricky one, because from the E to the F, we only have half a step. So that means that we are dealing with an E minor 9. So I'm going to do flat 9. Just need to see how I'll do it. Right it, yeah, there we go. And this is quite a spicy chord, but definitely worth using. And with the F major 7, we're going to do the same. I'm going to add a third on top. I'm going to stack a third on top of this chord. There we go. And now we have an F9 chord, but it is from F to G. That's 2 half steps. So this will be an F major 9 chord. So you see how I got here? I only stacked thirds on top of each other. So that's like, so and I can take this even further. So now, because you also see sometimes when some chords will be like, this is more into the realm of this. You can still find this in like pop music, 9 chords. But now, when you're going to have like 11 or plus 11, that's more into the realm of jazz, I would say. It's not my expertise, but in any case, I just want to show you that this kind of music is just you're just stacking thirds on thirds on thirds on thirds, and that's how you create all these extensions. So there's actually no real mystery behind it. Okay, go. And I'm going to add again thirds on top. Now we're going to really create a little bit like a spicy harmony. So if I'm going to add a third on top here, we're going to have an F. Here we go. It goes from D to F. And that will be now we're going to the minor chord. And again, from E, G, stacking a third on top. And now I need to count them, of course, because from D to E, this is again just 11. 11. And this one will be let's see, we have F, A, D flat 9, 11. There we go. You see I'm adding the 11 so people know. That's also a good thing to mention, actually, when you see it notation wise. Because what's the difference between let me take this chord as an example, because that's also a question I had when I was studying this like a couple of years ago. That's also the question I had. Is what is the difference between a D minor 9 chord and between D and let me write it here. D minor add 2 or 9. So maybe you can think about that. What is the difference for people who don't know yet? D, F, A. So the difference is this. You can see it in the notes. The difference between a D minor add 9 and between a D minor 9 or a D9, if it's a major chord, the difference is that when you have an add 9, you just have the triad, which is D minor, and then you're going to add the 9th tone on top. But when you come across a D minor 9, the thing is, then you assume that that also the 7th is present in the chord. And this goes for all the way up. Huh? So if you have, for example, here C major 11 or D minor 11, the thing is you assume that all the other extensions are part of the chord. So the 7th is part of the chord and the 9th is part of the chord. And if no extra things are notated, then you assume that it's diatonic. So that's the difference. Let's see. I can continue this all the way upwards. Let's also make 13th chords, because that's also quite regular. And then I'm going to show you, after that, I'm going to show you how you can combine different triads on top of each other, because that's also like quite a great thing to discover. And I just want to quickly, sorry for the interruption, but I just want to quickly check on my own YouTube if on my phone if I have sound. Yeah, I do. Great. I'm going to turn it into 13th chords now, and probably you'll say, okay, Xander, but you're just going to be doing the same thing. Well, yes, I am. So now, so for example, major 7, 11, and then many times I also do it between brackets. I don't use these chords that often, so excuse me if I'm making some mistakes in the notation. You need to forgive me on that, huh? But I think this is this is correct. So now I'm going to turn this into a 13th chord. So again, I'm just going to add a third on top. In this case, that's an A, because our top note here was an F already. For the people who don't read notes, the top note is an F, and here on top is an A. Now here we have a D, and we have the G, which is a top note. So I'm going to add a third on top, and again we have a B. So now let me turn this into 13, and this is going to be 13. And I'm just going to leave this one for what it is, because I think you already understand how it works. But now what I want to show you, and that's actually very interesting, is how you can combine different chords on top of each other. Because that's what happens a lot. For example, when you have a chord progression, a regular chord progression, let's say you have C going to G, going to F, going to let's make it look like really kitsch chord progression. Not what I wanted. Go to A minor. Here we go to F. Correct. And here we go to G. Okay. Let me just also quickly grab the chords from above here. I'm a bit lazy, so I'll just copy paste them. You don't even have to fill in the chord names actually. We have the A minor here. Okay, and then we have the F. So this is actually just a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. Nothing fancy. Okay. So, thing is, as you could see, since we're only stacking thirds, my question to you is, for all the people who will watch this live stream later, my question is, what kind of other chord could you play on top of this C major? What other triad could you play on top? I'm not talking about seventh chords, but what other triad could you play on top of this chord? What kind of extensions could you make? First of all, what you could do, let me go up to where I made seventh chords. The thing is, if you play on a C major chord, if you play an E minor, because here we have the notes of an E minor triad, we have E, G, B, you already turn it into a C major 7 chord. So that means that if you play an E minor on top of a C major chord, that will go together. Let's take it a step further. Now let's take this note. So you see, actually, what I did was I'm playing triads that I need to find a way how to explain this the best way. When you have so I played the E minor triad on this song. So I just followed diatonically. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this as a root note, and I'm going to create a triad on top. And it's just going to be the same way. I'm going to stack thirds. So you probably already notice how it's repetitive the repertoire is. That means that on a C major chord, you can also play a G major on top of that. So what kind of extensions will you get? So let's go up. Let's see. That means that here, see, because here we have our root note, which is the G. You see here G, B, D. That's a G major chord. So that means that if you play a G major chord on top, but of course you need to watch out with the root, with the bass notes, of course. Huh? I mean, that's a very important detail. I'm talking now mostly about, like, if you visualize it on a piano, for example, the right hand, because the left hand mostly plays the bass, of course. because you don't want to mix the bass up too much. But when you look at in the higher register, on a C major chord, you can also play on top of that chord. So let's say your band member on guitar plays a C major chord, and if you play the keyboard, you can play with your right hand in the upper register. You can play a G major chord, and what that will create is a C major 9 chord. You see where I'm getting at? And you can apply this the same. Let's see here to my A minor chord. You could do exactly the same thing. I actually did not make any tones for that one. So let me go to the F. So I'm going to apply the same tactic. Here we have our normal F major triad, F A C. Yeah. Then if I if I want to play another chord on top, I'm just going to look at like, okay, so what can I do? Well, let's use this A major chord as like my root note for the chord that I'm going to play with my right hand from the piano in the upper register. So I'm going to play on top of this an A minor chord. And luckily I have it here. And what does that create? Well, let me go up. Let's see. Let's see. Where are you? There you are. Here we have our F major chord. And the thing is, if on an F major triad, if you play in the upper register an A minor chord on top, you're going to create an F major 7 chord. Isn't that great? It's so easy actually. It's of course you need to find good ways of incorporating this into your playing. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it is so easy to create these extensions. Let's take it a step further. I'm going to go down to this F major chord. Now I'm going to use the fifth of the F major chord, the C. I'm going to use that as my anchor point, so to speak, as my axis point. So I'm going to create a C major chord on top of this. So that means that I need to add a C, an E, and a G. So again, you know, stacking thirds. That's what I'm going to do. So the thing is, if you stack a third on top of this chord, on top of an F major chord, if I'm going to stack a C major triad, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get an F major 9 chord. So with a major 7 and a major 9. So you see, so you can combine those. And again, of course, you need to skip the bass notes, huh? Because otherwise those bass notes are going to conflict if you play them too close to each other. So I would definitely advise that you use them in the upper extensions. In any case, also, you know, extensions, they sound more beautiful when they're in the higher register. Just because there's more space for people who are into mixing, like who mix their own productions. They probably already know that in the bass frequencies you want to keep things. So also in the lower register of guitar, piano, etc., you want to keep things nice and open, so to speak. So you don't want to have too many chords close to each other, because that's going to create a very muddy sound, something that you don't want. So that's why extensions always work better in the upper register, because there they really have the chance to shine, and so that's definitely advisable to do it like that. And now, of course, comes the question: so why would you do that? Why would you play all these extensions? Well, the thing is, these extensions also create extra tension. For example, this is our dominant chord, huh? And as a lot of people probably know, that a dominant chord, this would be a G7, huh? If this is in C major. So I need to add an F on top of this to create a dominant chord. But what if we create a 9 chord out of this? Let's see, because if we see how this chord wants to resolve to a C major, then this G, you know, if it was the bass note, it wants to go a fifth down, right? Let me show that also, because I think that's otherwise it will not be clear. Let's see, we can append one bar. There we go. So this G wants to go down to C. There we go. This B wants to go up to C, because that one wants to go half a step up. This tone, which is the D, so that's a major second above, that one can either go one step down or can go one step up towards the E. So that means that we have now an incomplete triad. And this F wants to go down half a step. So that means that it wants to go here. But what if we have a 9 chord, so we need to add an A on top. Where does that A want to go? Because that A is not part of the, let me write here, not part of the C major. So that means that you're creating another tension note, because this A will probably want to go down to G. So you create another tension note because, and that's the beautiful thing of these extensions. And if I go even further, and then we create a C, so that's an extra tension note. Let's see if we can create more tension notes. What would happen? Actually, we can do it with the diminished chord, but maybe that's not the best idea. I think this might be the. I'm still thinking what the best option is. No, I think I should keep it. Yeah, I should leave it at as it is. I also wanted to talk about inversions today, but I think that's actually a bit too much, because this was quite a mouthful, I think. So what I think is the best, if I just summarize what I talked about today. People who are scrolling quickly through the video and they are watching it later. The thing is, when you're going to create extensions, like natural extensions, then you're going to stay inside the key or inside the scale that you're working in. So in our case, in C major, we're going to stick only to the white keys. So how do you create natural extensions? Well, even a 7th chord is already an extension, of course. You do that by stacking thirds on top of your top note. So in this case, G was our highest note in this chord. So you stack a third on top of that one, and then you get the C major 7, which here with the B. So you stack thirds on thirds. You want to create it into a C major 9 chord. Well, what do? You stack a third on top of the highest tone, which is the B. So you get a D. And you do this to all of the chords that are there, or that you want to create an extension. And you, if you're really, how do you say it, diligent, then you learn them by heart. Then, for example, you would have known that this would be an E minor flat 9 chord, for example. And it's also, if you really want to go into the jazz scene, it's really advisable for you to also know this by heart, because, you know, they use extensions a lot. But in any case, you just go up, stacking thirds on thirds on thirds on thirds. And then also, this gives you the extra possibility of playing extra chords on top of each other, as I just mentioned. So, for example, what if I have a C major chord, and as a guitar, like your pianist plays a C major chord, but as a guitar player, you're like, you know, I want to spice things up. I want to play a different chord on top. Well, then you just look at the next tones within C and build a triad on top of that tone. Because remember, stacking thirds. So you stack, for example, here a third. You stack a triad on top of this E chord on the E note, like an E minor chord. So that means that you can play on a C major chord. Chords that you can play on top of there are an E minor chord. And that means that you'll get a C major 7 chord, as you can see here. But what if you want to play on top of a C major chord, you want to play a G major chord? Well, then you get a C major 7 9 chord. And it's a mouthful. The more extensions you get. But that's interesting to know when you want to, for example, reharmonize a certain melody or whatnot. Then you want to know what kind of extensions you're going to get, and then you want to know what kind of different chords I can play on top of each other, right? So I think that is my summary. So the main thing is just remember stacking thirds on top of each other. That's the main thing to remember. And of course, you do it diatonically, so you don't have to guess which note is going to be your next note. You already know. Just look at the key that you're in, and then the key will tell you. That's it. That's how easy it actually is. But of course, you need to also learn how to play it and to get it into your system and in your fingers, as they call it. Oh wait, switch to the wrong view. Yeah. No. So that's the main thing. You need, getting the theory down. That's one thing. But then also, managing to do this intuitively and to do it smart. That's another thing, of course. But you will get there. Just practice. Practice your skills, practice your chords, and also practice harmonizing songs or whatnot. And also just experiment when you're playing with your band or with or also when you're just playing an instrument by yourself. Especially if you play piano, see what happens, right? In any case, I'm also, of course, working on new episodes, as always, so you can expect a new episode this week. If in the meantime you have any music questions, please do write them down and ask them, because this is the moment to ask them for free. You get free advice. But this was the live stream for today. You can all, of course, watch it back later. I think this is a very interesting topic, and that's all I have to say for today. I hope you will enjoy the episode, and of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for now, see you next time.